Hi, good evening. This is Tolec of the Andromeda Council. We're going to be doing things a little bit differently today. I have the honor and pleasure of speaking with Tanaath of the Silver Legion. This is a special report. We were actually going to do this report second, but it looks like it's going to be posted first because of the crucial nature of the information that she's about to provide. Before I continue, I'd like to know that everything that you hear is copyright protected, courtesy of the Andromeda Council as well as the Silver Legion, copyright protected 2012. And this special report is specifically on operations Butterfly Net and Magic Eraser. And specifically Butterfly Net is relevant because, as I'm sure some of you have heard, just recently the Andromeda Council, including their people leading the way from Procyon, have just finished clearing out the final Draco and Hydra Reptilian undersea base. They started the search effort for this base on March 9th, just last month. They finally broke through about a quarter-mile thick energy force field. There was some considerable hand-to-hand fighting on a building-by-building basis. And the base was finally cleared out and shut down on March 30th, just a few days ago. Our people found an extensive operation going on there. There was 10,000 plus reptilian officers, military officers. There were 5,000 administrative and operational support workers. They also found 3,000 Cabal and Illuminati officers, which have been taken as prisoners. Now, here's the reason for the special report from Tanaath regarding this operation called Butterfly Net. In retaliation for the people of Procyon and the Andromeda Council taking out their last undersea base, the people of Draco and Hydra, the reptilians, weren't too happy at all. And it's actually a serious matter. I'll, if you will, hand over the floor to Tanaath and let her describe that retaliation effort and what her people of the Silver Legion did to address that effort and neutralize a great part of it. Tanaath?
Thank you, Tolec. I'll apologize to listeners right now. I've got a bit of a cold, so my voice is not what it usually is. But yes, we received intelligence that there would be a retaliation attack upon the Andromeda Council biospheres by specifically the Draco Reptilian fleet. Our sources provided us information on 50 dreadnoughts. Dreadnoughts in the Reptilian army are light attack cruisers manned by approximately 50 crew with room for up to 100 troops, marines, hand-to-hand fighters, if you call them, or combat fighters. These 50 ships were being launched through a portal in the fourth dimension on the other side of Jupiter, the opposite side of Jupiter from Earth. They were hoping to capitalize on the fact that there's so much traffic going through that particular portal right now that people would miss the fact that these are Draco and not somebody else. And then they would drop into the third dimension, go to the Andromeda Council biospheres, and fire special missiles that phase between the third and fourth dimension, thus rendering them difficult to target. Missiles designed to ship kill, in other words, designed to disrupt the life support capacities of the biosphere in order to take the technology intact, but kill all the people on board.
Oh boy.
They targeted 8 biospheres. It seems they either did not know of or know the locations of 2 others. And the attack was scheduled for April 2nd as we reckon time.
Sure.
So this was fairly recent.
Now, isn't my understanding is that typically dreadnought ships are, and this is, I guess, an historical perspective, at least based on Earth standards, they're pretty well loaded down with armaments.
That's pretty much it, yes.
Okay.
The 50 crew, only about 15 are required to fly the ships. The rest are required for the armaments. And the armaments are quite heavy. And serious business, let's put it that way. You don't want to be at the receiving end of that.
Okay. What did your people encounter? When they came upon this. Well, how big was the fleet of ships that was sent on attack on retaliation?
There were 50 ships. We first heard that there would be 40, and we knew that this could be upgraded. Now, one thing people need to realize is that information passes more or less instantly on that realm of reality, on that physical or non-physical existence.
Okay.
It becomes very much a case of, I know that you know that, I know that you know that, you know that I know, sort of situation. So we knew that this attack was being launched. We told the Andromeda Council, who also knew that this attack was being launched.
Yes, I spoke with, as a matter of fact, when we spoke about this, I spoke with the commander shortly after, the commander of the primary Andromeda Council biosphere. And he said, yes, we know it's coming.
Yes.
He knew. Yep.
And furthermore, the Dracos knew that the Silver Legion knew, at the very least.
Okay.
And they also knew that we would be taking efforts to make sure that this attack did not have the intended consequences. Through the use of an insider, we managed to gain information on the blueprints of the ship, the layout, all of the critical points of basically the points of the ship that are most critical to preventing it from doing its intended task, and to disable the crew and put it on lockdown, so to speak. We developed 50 teams of 100 people. This was the largest simultaneous operation the Silver Legion has ever performed.
Wow.
Yes, that is 5,000 people were involved in this.
Wow.
A pretty significant chunk of our forces. Not all of them, naturally, but a fairly noticeable chunk. And we used novel teleportation techniques to get them on board, simultaneously on board every single ship of those. And the intention was to capture the ship, if possible, intact. If failing that, make sure it was destroyed without rendering any threat to the Andromeda Council.
Okay.
We were able to kill 30 ships, and able to capture 5 ships, and the other 15 were easily neutralized by the Andromeda Council because we did definitely weaken them. In the process, we lost 800 operatives, and are in the process of recovering them. Actually, at this point, we have recovered all but a handful.
Okay.
And I will explain recovery in another time. We don't really have the opportunity for that right now. We also had the entire strike force that was sent out was inflicted with various injuries and wounds, and not to mention parasites. Now, some of you who have had experience with reptilians, whether in the flesh, for which I'm very sorry to hear it, or spiritually, you will know that they often make use of parasites, which, whether they're physical or ethereal, attach themselves to people, attempt to influence the behavior of those people, or damage them in some way to exploit those people. Yeah, and they do it to themselves, too. Every ship, particularly the warship that they have, is filthy with parasites. They're in the air, so when you step in, you're breathing them. They infect you more or less right away. We had put as much protection on our troops as we could, but naturally when they came home, with their 5 dreadnoughts intact and successful party, they immediately got sent to the infirmary for treatment, and the rest of the team basically spent the time decontaminating the ships that we took, because they were heavily...
It reminds me of almost like a slow release infectious self-destruct methodology.
Yes, it is, and it also ensures loyalty, right? Nobody is as loyal as somebody who's completely mind controlled by a parasite.
Well, yeah.
So that's the reason why they use them, and it's very, very prevalent on a warship because they need to make sure there's absolute loyalty. There's no time for petty politics or backstabbing, which the Draco love to revel in their own political structure. If they're going to be effective on a warship, they have to have total control over their people. So that's why they use those parasites. It also makes repelling borders quite a bit easier. And like I said, even though we had superior numbers, it was still a very difficult fight. We did lose 800 people. There were injuries across the board, and nobody escaped without a parasite. So there was our medical people have been very, very busy. But we have something that nobody else has managed to do yet, and that is capture an intact Draco warship. And this is important because, yes, they usually self-destruct. Their orders are to self-destruct in order to deny the enemy, whoever it may be, the technology to deconstruct. But we took 5, and we gave 1 to the Andromeda Council.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, for reverse engineering and investigation purposes. And in return, the Andromeda Council has presented us with our very own scout ship, what most of us on Earth think of as a flying saucer, along with some seconded pilots to train us how to fly our new prizes, because, to be honest, the Silver Legion has not operated in the theater of space, and flying a craft is rather new to us. It was all we could really do to get it back into Silver Legion headquarters.
Did a little waggling flying through space, did you?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, I know I'm gonna digress a little bit, but and I have some sense of this, but can you give me and the listeners at least sort of an executive summary or elevator, if you will, elevator ride version of what your people who are healers do when they recover the taken spirit of a fallen comrade? At least the elevator ride version.
Okay. Well, the quick answer is, as has been repeated by many, many sources, there is no death in the higher dimensions.
That's correct.
There is, however, disruption of the spirit to the point where that spirit goes back to Source. You can call Source whatever you want, Creator, God. It's the same force or entity that made us all. And if we are disrupted enough, and this typically does not happen to civilians, which is why you don't hear about it in the normal discussions about higher dimensions.
Right, and you're talking about significant damage to the spiritual body.
Yes, I'm talking about you start looking like Swiss cheese.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
That's matters.
Yeah, I was trying to be clear about that.
Yes, the damage has become so severe that person can no longer hold themselves together, and they go back to Source to rest. It's not a permanent thing. After a period of period of time is not even the right terminology, but after resting sufficiently within Source, they come back and they're typically born again as a new spirit. Well, they're the same spirit, but they have a fresh shot at it, so to speak. Yeah. You can reach out to somebody who has been sent and reconstruct them, invite them back, recover them is the term we use, to recover them. And they will be the same person they were before they went back to Source. They will have to rest because it's a very traumatic. Getting sent back to Source is a very traumatic process because of the sheer amount of damage you have to take to get there.
Yeah.
And they will typically have to spend a significant amount of time, if you will. There's that concept again. Resting.
Right.
And recovering from their ordeals.
Right. From what I've learned from Azar, chief medical officer, she has said, by the way, she acknowledged everything that you're saying. She also said that they have many, many recorded and saved energy patterns of many, many beings.
Yes.
So that if you will, the recreation or the remanifestation of a new fourth dimensional body, other dimensional body, is actually a pretty easy effort. You go look up the old pattern, you find it. Oh, is this the right person? Yep, sure is. Technology.
Yeah, back they are. And
Right,
it's energy
exactly.
intensive is the only thing.
Right.
And this is one of the things that sets us apart from them is that we're willing to spend the energy to recover our dead. They are not. If a reptilian dies or one of their servants dies, they take the energy from the death, burn it for all they can, and let them go.
Oh boy.
They will not, quote unquote, waste our time and energy by bringing back their fallen. So, because of that, we've got a definite advantage. We may be numerically small, but we bring our people back. They can learn from their mistakes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's what I mean when I talk about recovering the 800 dead.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So there were 50 ships in this retaliatory attack. You guys took out 30?
We took 30 and we captured 5. So
Okay.
35 total.
All
And
right.
damaged the rest, but not to the point
Yeah.
where they were completely inoperable. They still attempted to take pot shots at the Andromeda Council biospheres, but
Yeah.
I am given to understand that those missiles were safely disposed of.
Yeah, and those
ships were safely disposed of.
yeah, those ships were taken out. I have it on good source that it really wasn't a problem at all.
Yes, and that all happened about April 2nd as far as we
Yes.
reckon time, and that was a busy night.
Okay. All righty. All right. How about Special Operation Magic Eraser?
Magic Eraser was fun. Now, this is something that, talking about ships is exciting. It's especially exciting for the Silver Legion, who up until now has not had any. But Magic Eraser actually has the potential to affect real, living, incarnated humans here on Earth.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a little bit of background. Some people who are energy workers will no doubt be familiar with non-physical leeches. And I can guess some people will be nodding their heads at this description. They're little blobby dark things that are not intelligent, not sentient, and not strictly alive. And they glom onto people, typically at sites of trauma, and suck all the negative energy they can. They produce negative energy in that person and then feed on it. And sooner or later they get sated, drop off, and take their negative energy load back and deliver it. They don't reproduce on their own. They are not intelligent. They're fairly easy to destroy when you know they're there, but they're pretty good at hiding. And one of the problems with these leeches is that they often exacerbate existing conditions, such as illnesses, particularly mental illness, the mental results of trauma. They're very, very good at exacerbating that.
Can you tell me which species is creating these? Are they a living construct? Are they a technology construct?
They're pseudo-living.
Okay.
That's the best I could say. They're bred in non-physical, ethereal realm factory breeding pits.
Wow.
And it's a partnership between the Draco Reptilians and what I have sometimes heard referred to as the Archons.
Okay.
Yes, they work together. And the Archons that's for a whole other night.
Yeah.
But Magic Eraser basically went under the premise that if you kill the individual leeches, you don't really stop the problem. They can't breed on their own. They have only got a effective lifespan, as we reckon time, between 8 and 10 months. So they eventually drop off and poof on their own. They're fairly easy to take if you know they're there. A little bit of sonic energy, a little bit of fire, just burn them, they're gone. However, if you don't know they're a problem. For people who aren't aware and aren't awake and aren't energy workers, they can build up in amazing concentrations on a person. Rather like tapeworms. If you don't know they're a problem. If you know they're there, you can get rid of them, and then they're no longer a load on your system.
Right.
So if you want to take care of the leeches, the only thing you can really do is deal with where they're manufactured, the breeding chambers. The problem with that is the breeding chambers were located There were thousands of them on the planet, spread out in areas of particularly high concentrations of negative energy. They were using that negative energy to breed the leeches.
Here on this planet?
Not physically, but in the corresponding ethereal realm.
Okay, all right.
And we wanted to do something about this because we don't like them.
Right, yeah.
We don't like the people who are making them. And I know for a fact that leeches are particularly plaguing and troublesome for some individuals and in some places. Some of you who are in those places may be nodding your heads and going, yep, we know about it. So we designed a operation which we called Magic Eraser.
I like
Mystery Queen. We wanted to make a clean sweep of it, in which we would destroy these breeding facilities. Cleaning up the individual leeches is, well, it's something we'd like to do. We simply don't have the manpower because they are without number, and again, they're limited in lifespan. So, finishing them. Sorry?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Something came to mind. Did you find a higher concentration of breeding facilities? And I know that we're talking about the etheric realm of planet Earth, but still, did you find a higher concentration in any one specific geographic area of the planet?
There are some people here who are not going to be surprised by this at all. The areas of political capitals of other nations had higher numbers of breeding facilities, particularly Washington, London, Cairo,
wow,
and Beijing.
I was going to say, how about any? Was there any? Given the knowledge that there used to be an undersea Draco and Hydra Reptilian undersea base off the coast of China in East China Sea, and given all of the mythology and lore throughout Asia and Southeast Asia about lizards and reptilians, did you find a higher concentration throughout any of Asia compared to anywhere else?
No, they put these facilities up where there are concentrations of people.
Okay.
But yes, we did. The Southeast Asian islands in particular had a higher concentration of facilities.
Okay.
The places where actually we saw the fewest were the Great Plains, Siberia, and northern Russia.
Yeah, not many people out there. Got it.
Yep, parts of Africa, like the Sahara.
Sure.
Basically places where where the concentration of humans is low. Usually there was a token facility somewhere in there, but the concentration was low. It wasn't as high as it was in heavily populated areas. Now, the problem with destroying the facilities is if we just went and blew them up, they would eventually be able to rebuild them. If we just took out one or two, it would not hurt the overall capacity.
Right.
So we had to have, and we couldn't do it one at a time all over the world creeping, because then they'd be able to defend against it. So we had to have, again, a large simultaneous assault. And we used small teams for this, teams of about 1 to 3 people, for a total of about 3,000 Silver Legion operatives, all who specialize in stealth and subterfuge and sabotage. And we sent them out. There was a 2-pronged thing. First, we snuck in a particular kind of explosive device. And then later on, we went in again with the teams with other different kinds of explosion devices. And we have to stress that redundancy is very, very critical to our success against the reptilians, because they are extremely innovative and good at countering techniques. Something will typically only work against them 1 or 2 times. Now, fortunately, because the Silver Legion does draw its personnel from very different and diverse sources, we have many novel solutions and many ways to get around their counter solutions.
Okay.
So we made heavy use of these to get in and plant our devices and get out. The devices, when detonated, not only destroyed the facilities, but rendered that particular spot, for lack of the better terms, unable to support life in the etheric. It is not, I want to stress this to people, it will have no effect on physical humans, animals, plants, or the earth. But reptilians, leeches, archons, and even casual wandering observers will not be able to tolerate going into those sites for 5 to 10 years. And we chose that length of time specifically because in 5 to 10 years we should have hopefully have taken care of any stragglers, any particular leftover interference on this planet. So if we can deny them these sites, which were ideal for the production of these entities, then that we considered that a benefit. Once again, sorry?
Sure, it's okay. I was just curious. I'm trying to think of a size reference. Would you consider these production facilities like to be the size of a small home or a basketball course or a basketball court or a baseball diamond? I mean, how big?
Well, they ranged in. The smallest were, yes, around the size of a house. Okay. A small house, like say a 1 or 2 bedroom house.
Okay.
The largest ones were, there was one outside of Washington, which was very large, the size of a football field. But most of them ranged in size between house and I'd say basketball court.
Okay. All right. And we're talking about etheric facilities.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That means they roughly correspond to the physical world, but with differences. People who have the ability to see the etheric might have seen these before and wondered what they are, or even tried to disturb them and then got a nasty surprise.
Yeah. Would they appear to be oblong in shape, round? Would they be dark in color?
They would be dark.
Okay.
They would be dark, kind of menacing, ugly structures, billowing out constantly what looks like smoke, but is actually these parasites, these leeches.
Stories, floors, 1, 2?
2. One main one that's literally it's a pit, and then a sort of an upper chamber that's where a lot of the machinery is tuned and the controls are. Okay.
Wow.
Yes.
How many were your people able to take out across the globe during this effort, and how many days were you guys at this?
Oh, we did this in a lightning strike. It was one night, and it was actually April Fool's Day. Well, it was between the March 31st and April 1st. Okay. Between that, during the nighttime period, in the Western Hemisphere.
Sure.
And it was a lightning strike. It was all over with in about 5 hours, our time. And we had to do it that quickly because any longer and we start seeing failure. We'd had some other operations going on to sort of disrupt their attention and keep their mind on other things. In fact, we staged an attack on one of their political higher ups and managed to kill him.
Yeah, tell me about this. You were telling me about this high level reptilian official.
Yes.
And this is a fascinating story.
Yes, and his name is, I will tell you his name. His name was Brutus. And yes, that is not an accident.
Okay.
They did have influence on Roman cultures, and they rather admired Brutus for his willingness to take matters into his own hands. So, Brutus was a very high level official, and not known for being particularly smart, but known for being very, very vicious. And we managed to goad him into trying to attack us at our own territory, which he did. And at that point, we took him out quite handily, along with his attacking forces. And this has some interesting consequences. Not in that we just took somebody out that was helping them, and now that weakens them, but this has a ripple down effect. What I'm sure some people certainly realize about the reptilians is that they are a backstab happy bunch. Whenever you have any kind of shift in power, it ripples down the whole chain of command, as people go into backstab and maneuvering frenzy to try to make sure that they get into the highest position they can. In fact, the death of Brutus is still being felt in their ranks right now, which has made it a little easier for us to take out the ships a few days later.
And this is, for people that don't know, this is significant because the Draco, specifically the Draco Reptilian Society, if you will, is a warrior caste society.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We've been most going up against the Draco. The Hydra we haven't had much interaction with, but we sure have been fighting with the Draco, and they are talented.
They're bright. They're exceedingly intelligent. They're also very arrogant, but...
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. Brutus was easy to goad because he was so certain that he couldn't lose.
Surprise.
Yeah, they can be, you can use their arrogance against them, and we did in this case. But that also allowed us to get the jump on Magic Eraser, and we like to affectionately call it our little April Fool's joke on Draco Reptilians. And also, Brutus' surprise birthday party.
Well, I do know that you do have the deep appreciation of no less than a few people on the Andromeda Council biospheres, because we've talked about this, and I saw a lot of smiles. They definitely were acknowledging your work.
Yeah, and, if we sound a little bit like we're joking around with this, we are dead serious, but the Silver Legion has institutional humor, unlike other institutions within the physical sphere that we may or may not be familiar with.
Yeah, well...
And just because this is serious business doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Yeah.
Well, especially when you are you're helping to take down a long-standing, really mean, malicious, and unseen enemy. I mean, most of the people of Earth are just starting to get a handle on this topic, this subject matter of Draco and Hydra reptilians, and their connection to the Cabal and the Illuminati et al.
Yeah.
There's a lot of material that we can't even cover in this conversation, but
yes,
people are starting to learn, and so it's important to sort of fill in the gaps as we're doing.
Yes, and I'm going to say to listeners out there, this isn't going to be an overnight solution. Yes, we've taken out the breeding chambers, but there's still untold billions of these things on the loose. They will be dying over the next, immediately to about 10 months from now for the ones that are the freshest. And of course, when they go back to drop their load, they'll run into the you shall not enter field and die themselves.
Yeah. Hey, tell me about the ability of, because you certainly have more familiarity with these little nasty leech entities than I do. Tell me about their ability to survive in light of a rising vibration on this planet.
It makes it very, very difficult for them to survive.
Okay.
Anybody who's consciously channeling light, for instance, will send them scattering in all directions. If you attack them, they're very, very easy to kill. Unlike the Archons, I would caution people, be careful with the Archons if you don't know what you're doing, because if you make them angry, they make life interesting for you. Well, and not in a good way.
Again, elevator ride version, what is the difference between an Archon and these astral leeches, which are, I guess, non-intelligent?
Yes, they're non-sentient. Archons are incredibly sentient.
Okay.
And not in a good way. They're extremely malicious. They're sentient. They're very, very hateful. They look, I've seen them in one of three ways. Looking like little shadowy fetuses with red eyes.
Wow.
Looking like little shadowy blobs with red eyes. And looking like little shadowy lizards with red eyes. Yeah, there's a theme here. And they are very, very malicious. And I have heard them referred to as the Predator by Don Juan in the Carlos Castaneda books.
Yes.
I know that...
And Robert Stanley also did.
Yes, Robert Stanley refers to them as the Archons.
Yep.
My species refers to them as Numdal Akaran, which means Bane of the Living. These are highly malicious creatures that basically exist for the sole purpose of plaguing living creatures, feeding off their energy and manipulating them to give more pain, more energy, more darkness. They're going to be a bit tougher to handle. Now, fortunately, they can reproduce, but it's very, very slow.
Oh.
And they can be killed, and yes, killed, destroyed. When these things are destroyed, they dissipate. That energy goes back into the cosmos.
Yeah.
They are a created entity. They did not evolve. They were not created by Source.
Yes,
They were created, yes, by a malicious person who was very, very upset with the world. And he's since repented and since apologized, but you can't put the genie back into the bag or the bottle, right? So
I know some people locally here who have dealt with not only the archons themselves, but the technology that they like to insert or implement when they attach to people, because it's nasty stuff. It's complicated. It can be complex, but it's actually interdimensional technology. They infuse hoses and cables and clamps and all sorts of attachments. Nasty
sometimes
stuff.
They attempt to merge directly with the mind of the person that they're plaguing.
Yeah, people will get really nasty headaches in trying to deal with these things. Yeah,
and they'll spur all kinds of erratic behavior. Once again, like I said, they don't physically cause illness, but they sure as hell make it worse. These are the big bad brothers of the leeches. The leeches are little mindless cousins of archons. And leeches were developed by a partnership between the archons and the reptilians. The Silver Legion has plans to deal with the archons, but this is something that's going to take a lot more than 3,000 people.
Yeah.
And a lot more time. It's not something we can do overnight. But in the meantime, hopefully some of the load on humans will be released. It won't be an overnight thing. It'll tie in with the overall raising of consciousness that's going on. So, I will say this, don't expect world peace overnight, but hopefully this will help release some of the aggression.
Well, it's
some of the pain.
This is your people's part, their contribution to help cleaning up some of the interdimensional mess that's here on this planet, and it's not exclusive to Draco and Hydra reptilians, as people are learning.
No, we know there's leech pits on other planets. We've had operations on other planets that are colonized by the reptilians. We've been involved in some base destruction on other planets.
Okay.
We were a little too late to the game to be involved in base destruction on Earth, much to our chagrin. But we have been involved on other planets. I'm not privy to the names of these. I'm not very good at bringing in the names. But we definitely are getting out there and helping and pitching in. Yeah. I know that we're helping spare the Procyon people all the burden of.
Yeah, and there are others. There are certainly other races that are helping as well. And unfortunately, we also have, and it's worth mentioning, at least I think it is, we also have the rising vibration of not only the planet but the solar system.
Yes, so and that's a big help.
These things are going to have a limited lifespan here. It's just, the clock is counting down. So that works in our favor.
The load.
Yeah, it works in our favor, definitely. Yeah. Well, listen, I want to thank you very much for sharing this information with us. I know you're fighting this cold, so I won't keep you too long in this conversation. Anything? Well, before I sign off, go ahead and please share with listeners your website address.
All right, it's www.silverlegion.org, and that's silver as in the metal, and legion as in thousands of soldiers.
Okay.
And it's all one word, no hyphen, no space, no underscore, anything. Silverlegion.org.
All right, and this is Tolec of the Andromeda Council, and the Andromeda Council website is www.andromedacouncil.org. council.com. In this case, council is spelled Council. Well, that's it for myself and Tanaath. Tanaath, before I go, any closing comments from you? Thoughts? Anything at all?
Feel free to write me questions. We have a widget on the front page that allows you to submit emails that go directly to me and I answer them. The only time I don't answer them is if you give me a bad email address. So if you haven't received a reply from me, send another email and make sure you've got your right email address in there. There's also a blog now, which may be periodically active. We are not always doing big operations like Magic Eraser and Butterfly Net, but after they're completed, we will post stuff. For security and operational reasons, I can't tell too much details about an operation before we actually do it. Right. But once we have information on what happened, we'll certainly post it for people.
Yeah, same thing with us as well. Alrighty. Tanaath, thank you very much. As always, to all of our listeners, thanks for being interested and following what's going on. This is a time of great change on this planet. To everybody, we're going to sign off. Good night. Take care.
Thank you, Tolec.